we all have these desires and we all keep fulfilling these desires. We have this wrong concept of happiness. Let me work hard. Let me get all the money. Let me buy all of that stuff. Let me get all the phones. Let me have those palaces. Let me have my dream house. Let me have my dream car and I'll be happy. You dream. And there's nothing wrong with dreaming. There's nothing wrong with earning. But to dream that this is what will make you happy, I'm sorry to say, after you cross a certain limit, no, it's all a status game. It has no value. It can't add more value to your life. It's all a status game. Again, don't get me wrong. I'm not saying don't earn. I'm just saying don't make the mistake of equating your happiness with something that only has utility value.
Need motivation?
Watch a top 10 with Believe Nation.
Hey, it's Evan Carmichael, and I make these videos because you are probably the most ambitious person in your circle, but you know you're capable of more, and you get that push by surrounding yourself with the best. So today, let's learn from one of the best, Gaur Gopal Das, and my take on his top 10 rules of success. Enjoy. Rule number 2, gain experience.
Of course, when we're talking about measurements, we're measuring in one way.
Yes.
Correct? So the data and the statistics would be in one space.
Yes.
So in that particular space, we would say we list here.
Yes.
If we start measuring basing some other yardstick as a yardstick of measurement, probably have a whole different statistics available to us. Nevertheless, having said that, I think I often say whether you drive a BMW or a Rolls Royce, it's not the car that happiness, it's the journey. When the focus shifts overtly to the car than the journey, you're compromising with your experience. Car is important. A good car is great, no problem. But when your focus is overtly on that, you're compromising with your journey. I say often, it's not an iPhone or a Samsung. It's the quality of your conversation on that phone that gives you that experience of happiness.
Correct.
But when your attention moves from the quality of conversations to the quality of your phone, overtly, you're kind of compromising with your experience. I often say that it's not the watch that, whether it's a Rolex or a Tissot or whatever it is, or a Giorgio Armani, whatever brand of Rado or a Breitling, whatever watch you wear, I really don't think it's the watch that gives you that happiness. It's how you utilize that time on that watch that gives you that experience. But when your focus shifts from utilizing your time to your watch and flaunting that watch, I think we are compromising with our experience. I don't think it's the house that's made of bricks and cement that brings us the happiness, whether it's in Malabar Hill with the most fancy furnishings inside and a massive space. I think it's the quality of our relationships in that house and that brings us happiness. It's the home that brings us happiness. So it's not India or America or any place in the world. It's anybody who prioritizes things, achievements of things, and starts equating the quality of their life with those things, will definitely have a compromised standard of experience. Whereas those who prioritize the quality of their journey, the quality of their relation, and not saying the thing shouldn't be there. Absolutely not saying that. I'm just saying equating happiness to that
Is where the problem is.
is where the problem is. Because then, today, and it also comes from what's considered a social standard of being accepted as the social standard of being accepted as cool. Today, you're not judged for you're not accepted for who you are. You're accepted for the car you drive, or the area you live in, or the class of an airplane that you fly on, and a flight that you fly on. So in a society where the standards of your success are so shallow, then the pressure to conform, that if I don't have this, if I'm not at this party, there's FOMO, the fear of missing out. I'm missing out on something. Big thing. But who created it? A standard that we made, that this is what happiness means. Right? But if we understand that there are finer things that bring us happiness, these things have utility value. Let's use them. Use the best stuff, no problem. Use the best stuff. Who's saying you don't have a Rolls Royce? But if you think Rolls Royce makes you happy, I'm sorry. Have the fanciest house. Who says don't have it? But if you think it's the house that makes you happy, I'm not sure if bricks and cement can make me happy. You know?
Rule number 3, have hope.
I must tell you, oh God, just how the world is. When you are high up, you don't know what to say there. You're not just, I was in America in February. I was flying from New York, JFK airport to go to Detroit. And it was an airline called Spirit Airlines. And in the morning they were selling alcohol. So I asked the stewardess, I guess your airline is in very high spirit, you know. They were selling spirits in the morning itself. Oh goodness. Turbulence not in control, takeoff not in control, landing not in control, choice in control. The takeoff of life is our birth, no control. I can't change my looks. I was born the way I was. Some are born in a wealthy family, some are born in a poor family, some are born very smart and handsome, some are not so handsome, some are fair, some are dark, some are green, some are yellow, some are born in the US, some are born in Indian, some are born in America, Hindu family, some are born in Muslim family, some are born in Jain family, some are born in Jew families. What control do you have over the takeoff? Did you choose your mothers and fathers? ये मम्मी होगी ये पापा होगा भगवान पहले जोड़ी लगा देना मैं आया हूँ मैं आने वाला मेरा अवतार लेने वाला मैं तुम थोड़ा जोड़ी बना देना दोनों Do you have any control? No control at all. And in the landing, death, there's tremendous hope in life. God is the greatest hope in life. You don't have to be hopeless. Failure is not the end of the world. Someone insulting you is not the end of the world. A health crisis is not the end of the world. A divorce, a breakup is not the end of the world. And the turbulence is in your control. Problems during the journey of your life, from birth to death, takeoff to landing, as the journey of your life goes, there's clouds, there's wind speeds, tremendous turbulence, which is completely beyond your control. Are people in your control? What people say about you behind your back is in your control? What people think of you, is it in your control? You can try to be good, but can you control people? In New York, when I was there recently, one guy came up to me after my talk and said, "You are the most egoistic person I've ever seen." I don't even know him. I'm a human being. Even I have feelings and emotions. Can't just come and slap you on your face, and I won't even use the words he used against me, straight on my face, and then wrote a wrong email to me. That email is on my phone, just in case you feel I'm lying, you can come and check out. God bashing me with words like, oof. What can I do? When a health crisis comes, cancer happens to someone for no fault of his or hers, what can you do? It's completely out of control. When an examiner asks a googly question in the question paper, you all know, what can you do? What can you do? Nothing, right? Therefore, between this journey called birth and death, there's only one thing in our control: our choices. The choices we make are completely in our control. Choice karna bhi mushkil ho jata hai kei baar. So if I take advantage of the time in between, and thus I say, when you're born, people love you. And when you die, people love you. In between, you have to manage. Stunning how life is. जिंदा होते तो प्रेम क्यों नहीं करते मालूम नहीं? जन्म पे प्रेम करते, मरने के बोलते अच्छा था बेचारा, अच्छा था. जिंदा होता तो मुंह बंद क्यों रखा? बोलना चाहिए था ना, तभी अच्छा था. मरने के बाद अच्छे थे वैसे बेचारे. Kind of really amazing how people can be.
Rule number 4, practice questioning.
Let's not look at viewpoints from any particular lens.
Right.
Let us look at life and spirituality as a process of learning.
Right.
And when we are talking about a process of learning, there's no learning without questioning. Doesn't matter what faith, doesn't matter what background. If spirituality, if religion is a process of education
Right.
and learning, I'm not too sure if education and learning would happen without questioning and a dialogue, right? I remember, I think, was it It was Isidore Rabbi was his name, physicist, if I'm not wrong. This gentleman got a Nobel Prize.
Okay.
And the reporters asked him, they asked him, said, sir, you are now a Nobel laureate, you have a Nobel Prize. So what made you different from all the children in your neighborhood? You come from a Jewish background, they were Jewish background, I'm from the Judaic tradition. All friends, all from the same neighborhood. What made you a physicist, whereas they're probably lawyers or whatever else? How did you stand out to be a physicist or a scientist? Isidore replied, he said, they are doing exceedingly well and they're doing very well. They're still amazing. They're my great, good friends, he said. And then he said, every single time, all of these kids who are friends were in the same school, we studied in the same school, some were in the same class, same grade. Said, when we came back home, most of my friends, when they got back home, their mothers would ask them, did you answer the teacher's questions right today? And he said, whenever I got back home, my mom said to me, did you ask intelligent and right questions to your teacher today?
Wow. Absolutely.
Because education, learning is an evolution. And that evolution is not possible without questioning. Right? Reckless questioning is something that we may abandon.
Absolutely.
You know, reckless questioning meaninglessly is something that all of us would agree to that.
That's right.
But genuine questioning for clarification, for understanding. In fact, I tell people, please don't accept what I'm saying. You challenge me on what I'm saying. Right? Challenge me, because it's it's the process of education and learning. Otherwise, it's blind faith. Right? I'm saying it, so you're accepting it. Right? So I feel, therefore, religion can be questioned. It should be questioned. I'm not saying religion. I'm saying if it's a process of education, questioning and learning must be a part of it. Right? If this is my academic material education, is my degrees I get, religion is meant to offer me spiritual education. Correct. And if it's a part of spiritual education, how can education be without questioning?
Also, to make sure you're actually taking action after watching this video, I've designed a special free worksheet just for this video. The worksheet will highlight all of the lessons learned in this video, as well as pull out our 3 favorite learnings and quotes that will inspire you to actually do something. The worksheet will also give you space to write down what your key takeaways are and your specific plan of action to make sure you're getting results. If you want the worksheet designed specifically for this video, absolutely for free, there's a link in the description below. Go click on it and start building the momentum in your life and your business. I'll see you there. Rule number 5, correct your mistakes.
When you write, you will most certainly end up making mistakes. What's truly great is that right behind you is attached an eraser, and you can actually correct that mistake and once again write the right thing. Ladies and gentlemen, even in our lives, we make so many mistakes. And what's amazing is God has given us the opportunity, the chance to erase them, to correct them, and to rewrite our stories. We all make mistakes. I remember I once went for a program and a gentleman came to me and said, Prabhuji, I'm your fan. I said, why? He said, your talks are really inspiring, especially the jokes. I said, what about the points, man? He said, the points are good, but the jokes are great. I said to him, come on, all the jokes are only meant to really pass on the message and drive home the point. And just as we were talking, a little boy came running and I said, your son, right? He said, yeah. And just following the boy came a lady. I said, your daughter, right? And the man turned blue. And the lady was like all smiles, a year to year smile, because she was not his daughter. She was actually his wife. The guy turned to his wife and said, प्रभु जी को ज़्यादा seriously नहीं लेने का, उनको jokes मारने का बहुत आदत है. Oh my God, I realized, God, I had made a big mistake there by asking if it was his daughter when she was actually his wife. We all make mistakes. Now, anyone who comes to me with people around, I never ask whether this is your son or daughter or wife or father or mother. I just ask, can you kindly introduce me to everyone, please? Simple, isn't it? Yes, we make mistakes. We should learn from those mistakes, erase them, correct them, and never repeat them.
Rule number 6, solve problems.
Everybody looks for solutions to problems, isn't it? That's a big thing that's stopping us from experiencing happiness. That's a big thing that's stopping us from making happiness happen. Who is it that doesn't want to make happiness happen? It's problems that's stopping. It could be a health problem, could be a financial problem, could be a relationship problem, could be a business problem. Anything. Stopping you from crafting your happiness. We all want to do it. All want the solutions to these problems, isn't it? There's no lock in the world that was created without a key. Not a single lock in the world was created without a key. I don't know why would somebody make a lock without a key? Every lock that was made was created with a key. And so every problem, every challenge, every issue that's there in our life, which is like a lock and seems like a deadlock and dead end, has a key. It's not seen now. It's not visible to us right now. You don't know where the key is. We're all searching for that key. कैसे ताला खुले और problem सुलझ जाए, थोड़ा शांति मिले, थोड़ा खुशी मिले यार. How do I get a solution to that problem? You know what? Every lock comes with a key and every problem with a solution. Some of your problems can actually be solved, and some of your problems literally cannot be solved, but can be solved by becoming stronger to face them. That's the key. That's the key. You know? What do you do when you have a mentally challenged child born to you? A child with special needs born to you. What do you do? Is there a solution? Can't rewire things, right? Can't rewire things. But the solution then, there is a solution. There is a key. But the key is not that this will change. The key is you will have to grow stronger to face it and solve that problem. है ना? और इसीलिए हर समस्या के ना जी दो सॉल्यूशंस होते हैं. या तो भाग लो या भाग लो. Right? There's only two things you can do. या तो भाग लो, run away, या भाग लो, participate, face it, deal with it. क्या करे नहीं? Which is why a lot of times I say, just because someone is happy and just because someone is smiling doesn't mean they don't have issues. Doesn't mean they don't have problems. Doesn't mean they don't have challenges. Just because कोई मुस्कुरा रहा है, just because कोई अपने लाइफ में खुश है, इसका मतलब ये नहीं कि उनकी प्रॉब्लम्स नहीं है. इसका मतलब ये नहीं कि उनकी लाइफ में चैलेंजेस नहीं है. इसका मतलब ये नहीं कि उनकी लाइफ में डिफिकल्टीज नहीं है. The difference is they've chosen to deal with whatever they can do with their problem. They deal with it, but they've chosen to shift their attention to something else in their life. क्योंकि attention इधर रहेगा ना, कैसे खुश रहोगे जी? If your attention is always on your problem and only problems are on your mind, constantly just occupied by issues, problems, challenges, the difficulties, the troubles, the emotional hurt, the wounds that have happened, how are you going to make happiness happen? With all of that going on, we have to do what we have to do to deal with it. When people smile and happy, that doesn't mean they don't have troubles, guys. They've just chosen to shift their attention to something that can make happiness happen. And both are exclusive. One doesn't cancel another.
Rule number 7, don't go too fast.
Tell you something? How many of you know this guy? I'm not too sure if you know him. This gentleman is one of the most finest violin players on planet Earth. His name, Joshua Bell. His violin costs 4 million pounds. 24 crore rupees. His violin costs. That's the worth of his violin, Joshua Bell. Washington Post, they decided to do a experiment. They put Joshua Bell, whenever Joshua Bell would perform concerts, people would have to pay anywhere in the range of $300 to $500 for an hour to listen. $500, $400 concert का फीस. $400-500 दे के जाके वायलिन का कॉन्सर्ट सुनते थे 1 घंटे के लिए. You know, they put him in a subway. अपना underground station होता है. Put him on a subway and asked him to put a simple jeans t-shirt and put a cap. So he stood in the subway and he performed some of the most amazing gigs. ऐसा बजाया कि concert hall में भी नहीं बजाता था ऐसा. That's how he played. Incredible pieces, masterpieces. And Washington Post did a research to see within an hour's time of his playing, how many people stopped by, how many people passed by him, how many people stopped by to hear what he had to play, and how much money did he earn. Hat रखा था उसने, लोग coins डालते हैं, hat रखा था. 1097 people, 1097 people passed by during this music that he was playing in the 1 hour in the subway. Ready to hear how many actually stopped to listen to him? Any wild guesses? Seven people. Out of 1097 people, his concert halls would be full all the time. 7 people stood there. And guess how much money he got in the hat? एक टिकट $500 लगता था. $32 in 1 hour. And Washington Post just explored to see what had happened. It was the evening hour. Everyone was in a rush. When you're in a rush and you go too fast in life, you cannot have a spiritual experience. This is why press a pause. In your 20s to 30s, every now and then, press a pause. Introspect. Relish things in life. The best things to relish are the simplest things in life, not the complicated iPhone 10s.
Rule number 8, develop professional wellness.
What really is important is in the world today we are talking a lot about wellness. Physical wellness is spoken about. Mental wellness is spoken about. Emotional wellness is spoken about. I don't hear a lot of people talking about professional wellness. You know. And when we're talking about professional wellness, I'm not just talking about somebody who's doing well professionally. There's a difference between doing well and feeling well. Right? Doing well is your expertise that takes you to the heights of your success and achievements, pays you well. But feeling well is you love what you do and you enjoy what you do. And a huge chunk of people out there are doing well, not sure if they're feeling well. So back in the day when I was with Hewlett Packard, I was thinking to myself that I'm doing well, I'm being paid well, but am I feeling well with my work? I'm going to have to spend 90,000 hours doing this stuff. And there was a big fat no that came out of my mind. I'm good at it, but I don't think I'm cut for this. Obviously, the next question that came in my mind was then what am I cut for?
Absolutely.
And that's when I realized that for me, my passion was not so much to work with systems and machines as an engineer. My passion was to work with people, to explore life, to understand life, help people with their lives. The one way to go about it was to probably study psychology, but then I also had a spiritual calling. So I thought, why not explore my own spiritual calling and see if I have answers to life and dealing with life in spiritual philosophy and wisdom, which can then help people as well. So that's what made me take that plunge and switch over from, or shall I say, upgrade from electrical engineering to lifestyle engineering. You might say it. You might say that, Now, and it's very fulfilling. It's been 25, 26 years, no regrets so far, touch wood. It's been very fulfilling. The journey's been incredible, very satisfying. I also want to say one thing, that I took a risk.
Yes.
When you take that plunge, leaving the secure and going to the insecure, moving from the certain to the uncertain, moving from the road that's taken to the road less traveled, right? You take a risk, and I feel I took an uncalculated risk. It was uncalculated. You didn't know what was coming ahead. But when the passion inside of you is burning so powerfully, it's like a guy in love with a girl. It's just burning so much, it's irresistible. It's irresistible. When I do tell people, I say that, look, don't take such kind of risks though. Because you have real life issues, financial liabilities, mortgages to pay, terminally ill patients at home often, right? And you need to look at that side, and if you take that plunge and just jump straight away into following your passion just so that you feel well,
That's right.
you may not be able to address this real life.
Absolutely. I tell a lot of youngsters who come to me for advice about writing, I say, look, the early days when I got into the world of writing, I was writing in the middle of the night, but I was still putting in a full day of work. And so my one piece of advice to them is usually don't lose the day job, because it's very difficult to write when you're hungry, but you did precisely that. You quit the day job.
I did, and that's what I don't advise. I'm saying keep your day job to do well, so your financial needs are addressed, but also pursue your passion and what you love to do so that you feel well. And maybe one day your feel well will also be your mainstream profession. Who knows,
Rule number 9, find unity in diversity.
How many of you could cook? Okay, a little bit. How many of you love cooking? How many of your cooking is disastrous? मतलब खाए देखे नहीं कोई उसके पास ऐसा खाना सूंघना तो देखे नहीं कोई उसके like terrible is an understatement. If you cook a little bit, chonk is fantastic, and one thing I like about chonk is कड़ी पत्ता. How many of you enjoy putting कड़ी पत्ता in the chonk? काट ऐसा मस्त आता है. And mustard seed, राई, ऐसा fun है ना वो जब splatter होता है. When you see all the ingredients of the chonk, all the ingredients of the chonk are so different and so diverse, right? राई डालो, टेम्परेचर बड़ा ताड़ करने लगता है वो. You put salt will give taste to the preparation and always remain in the background. आप में से कभी किसी ने salt देखा है? Salt कितना सुंदर दिख रहा है नहीं आज खाने. लजाने में salt एकदम मस्त दिख रहा है एकदम. कभी देखा है salt को? नमक नहीं, स्वाद नहीं, लेकिन जो स्वाद देता है वो अपने आप को दिखाना नहीं चाहता कभी. दिखाने वाले होते हैं हल्दी. रंग देता है वो बस. होता है ना हर ग्रुप में, हर फैमिली में, हर फ्रेंडशिप में होता है वो. करेगा कुछ नहीं, सब डालने के बाद एंड में आके मैंने किया हल्दी. एंड इफ यू आर गुजराती देन यू हैव सम शुगर इन चोंक. हर चीज में चीनी डालते हैं लोग. एंड इफ यू समटाइम्स यू ऐड चिल्ली. कोल्हापुर है तो ऐसा चिल्ली डालना चाहिए कि हर जगह से धुआं. Every place of the part of the body is on fire. Every place of the body is on the fire. But so diverse, isn't it? So different. बट छोंक में ना सब एक हो जाते हैं, सबका पर्पस एक, सबका स्पिरिट एक, कि वो प्रिपरेशन को स्वाद देना। राई का स्वभाव अलग, चीनी का स्वभाव अलग, मिर्ची का स्वभाव अलग, हल्दी का स्वभाव अलग, नमक का स्वभाव अलग, लेकिन छोंक में आ गए ना, सबका स्पिरिट एक है। All these ingredients have only one purpose, together to make the preparation tasty and delicious. You eat your upma, you eat your poha, you eat your misal, any damn preparation. It's the chonk that gives it that exclusive flavor. But such diverse ingredients, that's how relationships are. Very diverse. Don't expect your husband, wife, parent, child, friend to be the same. Diversity is what makes life beautiful. Relationships are like that. सब अलग है जी, बहुत अलग है। अपेक्षा मत करो आप जैसे बनेंगे।
And rule number 10, the last one before some very special bonus clips, is learn the attitude of gratitude.
In India, in a place called Bihar, a small little place called Patna, there's a guy who studied in a high school there and came out of Patna to become a big business giant. And once he returned back to Patna, and when he got back to Patna, he thought, let me go see one of my school friends whom I was with in school studying for about 8-9 years. He went to see his school friend. The place where his school friend lived was, small, narrow lanes. So he's a businessman now. He couldn't drive in his car, so he parked the car outside, decided to walk into the lane. He heard that his school friend whom he studied with for several years in school had turned out to be a priest in a temple. Because his father was a priest. They'd not met for a long time. So he went to see his friend, who was now a priest. And firstly, the friend didn't even recognize the guy. He's a big businessman, still a priest. And then they kind of got up and started talking, and they started sharing their hearts and catching up for whatever long time had been gone on. And then this priest, looking at this new friend who had come after a long time, not even knowing what he's doing, not even knowing where he lives, not even knowing that he's a businessman, said to him, "Hey, look, you're now living in a big city. If just in case you want to do something and start something and you need some financial help, I've saved up these 25,000 rupees from a long time. I'd like to give it all away to you to start this business." And this businessman was a friend. God, his heart was touched that this man, all he has is 25,000 rupees. And these 25,000 rupees is willing to give it all away to me. This businessman, it made such an impact on the heart of this businessman that on CNBC, this businessman was being interviewed by one of his friends whom I just met this evening, right here, was interviewing this businessman. And after asking the sutras for his success, asked this businessman, "Would you like to share the story?" And this businessman shared the story with a grateful heart, remembering. His memory hadn't gone weak. He had remembered that this guy had offered me this 25,000 rupees to start something, a venture, and that's all he had. Who with deep gratitude remembered this man in his memory that he was willing to give. Ladies and gentlemen, gratitude is about memory, about remembering what people have done for us, remembering what people do for us, how they come forth to help us, and so many have done that for us.
Do you know something? In the game of life, you're playing a cricket match against an entity called the mind. No one on planet Earth can stop you from accomplishing and achieving what you want if you can bat against the googlies that the mind bowls at you. How many of you have experienced that the mind bowls googlies? Good. When it comes to exercising and jogging, how many of you know that the mind bowls googlies? Majja. Soja. How many of you have trouble in studying? Raise your hands as students. My God. And you come here, you hear all of these things. Don't get distracted by WhatsApp. Don't get distracted by internet pornography. Don't get distracted by Twitter. Don't get distracted by Facebook. Study. Don't get distracted by birds to do bird watching. Study. All these distractions. इधर आके कुछ उपदेश देते हैं कुछ लोग, साधु लोग आपको, उस पे बात भी फेल होता है. So one father was telling his son, देख देख तेरे क्लास में वो लूसी है ना, लूसी, देख देख फर्स्ट आई है वो, और तू नालायक फेल हो गया. वो बोला देख देख के ही फेल हो गया मैं उसको, देख देख के ही तो फेल हुआ मैं उसको. I'll tell you something. My God. Why? Because the mind doesn't want you to win the game of life. How many of you wanted to wake up early in the morning? Raise your hands. Only wanted, I asked. Wanted to wake up early in the morning. And how many of you have done something called as setting an alarm clock? And then after setting the alarm clock, that's an alarm. Whether you want it or not, it rings. And when it rings, the mind puts its first googly. What does the mind do? By putting the googly, makes you clean bold when you do the first snooze. You are out. You are out. If you snooze, you are out. I want to say one thing, just one. And probably this will change the direction of your life. You know something, when you snooze the alarm, what happens? You decide to give in to the mind's ball. And this is how your morning begins, by giving in to the mind. सवेरे की शुरुआत होती है इस बॉलर से क्लीन बोल्ड होके, आगे क्या मैच जीतेंगे. ये तो दिन की शुरुआत है, by giving in. And it's no problem giving in. Sleeping 5 minutes extra is no problem. The problem is you develop the attitude of giving in. You tell yourself that what I decided last night is not as important. What is important is what the mind says. Because we listen. I'll tell you something, my humble advice. Because it's not just about getting up in the morning, it's about every aspect of life. Whether it's your work, if you're working, whether it's your study, if you're studying, whatever we do. The problem is, it's not about one thing. सवेरे हो गया ना, it reflects in every area of life. इसलिए मैं कहता हूँ, अगर 4 बजे नहीं उठना, मालूम है ना अपने से नहीं होता, 4:20 का अलार्म लगाओ, लेकिन 4:20 को उठो. Don't allow that snooze.
Some of you have commented and asked me this question that all this sounds easier than done. It's easy to say these things, easy to listen to these things, but when it comes to practical implementation, application, and dealing with these things in real life, it seems very difficult. It seems very hard. But that's very true. What you've said is perfectly true. Because only the wrong things come very easy. The right things that we need to do in our life don't come that easily. You know, when we do the wrong things, they give us that momentary pleasure, and they're extremely easy to do. Although they give us that momentary pleasure and they're easy to do, in the long run, however, we have to pay a very high price in terms of our physical, emotional, mental and spiritual well-being. Although they give us pleasure and they're easy, God, they really cause a lot of trouble later. On the other hand, the right things, they cause pain in the beginning. They're painful to do. It's a lot of hard work. They don't come easy. And if we just are willing to bear that initial pain, that initial hard work, that initial discomfort, and that initial could be a long time actually, in the long run, these right things, these right habits pay back a massive premium to us in terms of sustained pleasure, safe pleasure, which has a very high shelf value, and it is not at all destructive to our overall sense of well-being. This kind of pleasure coming from the right things, Lord Krishna calls these pleasures in the Bhagavad Gita as sattvic pleasures, or pleasures in the mode of goodness. They cause pain in the beginning, discomfort in the beginning, but they pay back a huge premium in terms of sustained high shelf pleasures. On the other hand, Lord Krishna calls this short-term pleasures that come by doing wrong as pleasures in the mode of ignorance or tamasic pleasures. These pleasures are momentarily very exciting, thrilling, exhilarating, and they're easy to go. But in the long run, we have to pay a huge price. Therefore, ladies and gentlemen, do not worry so much about what is easy or hard. Worry about what is right and wrong. The right things may be hard, but we should be doing it in our long-term interest. The wrong things may come easy, but we should be avoiding them in our long-term interest. Therefore, even if being polite, sensitive, swift, sportive, kind to others may be hard, even if putting all these things that we've spoken in the last couple of days into practice sounds very hard and difficult, but that's the right thing to do. Ladies and gentlemen, in our transformative journey, we have to worry about the right thing to do, not the easy thing to do. And right things require a lot of hard work. But bit by bit, as we work hard, we can get there. एक बार एक माँ अपने बेटे को सवेरे सवेरे स्कूल जाने के लिए जगा रही थी और बेटे ने स्कूल जाने से साफ इनकार कर दिया। आप तो जानते हैं कि जब भी हमारे माता पिता हमको स्कूल जाने के लिए जगाया करते थे तो हम किसी न किसी प्रकार का बहाना दे दिया करते थे। कभी पेट में दर्द होता था तो कभी पीठ में दर्द, कभी सर में दर्द तो कभी बुखार आ जाता था। तब जब इस बेटे को जगाया गया तब माँ ने बेटे से कहा कि तुम मुझे 2 कारण दो, तुम स्कूल क्यों नहीं जाना चाहते। बेटे ने कहा, पहला कारण क्योंकि सारे टीचर्स मुझसे नफरत करती है, और दूसरा कारण सारे विद्यार्थी, सारे स्टूडेंट्स भी मुझसे नफरत करते हैं। माँ ने कहा, स्कूल तो तुमको जरूर जाना पड़ेगा। तो बेटे ने माँ से कहा, तुम मुझे 2 कारण दो कि मैं स्कूल क्यों जाऊं। माँ ने कहा, पहला कारण क्योंकि तुम 52 साल के हो, और दूसरा कारण क्योंकि तुम स्कूल के हेडमास्टर हो। अब चाहे हमको स्कूल जाना अच्छा लगे या नहीं लगे, आप सबको याद होगा कि जब भी स्कूल का पहला दिन होता था तो हमें बड़ा उत्साह भर जाता था। नए जूते, नई यूनिफॉर्म, नई स्कूल बैग, नई किताबें और एक नई नोटबुक, एक नई कॉपी भी हमको मिल जाती थी। जीवन में भी हर वर्ष, हर साल हमको एक कॉपी, एक नोटबुक मिलती है। 365 पन्नों वाली नोटबुक हर साल हमको दी जाती है। पिछले साल 2017 में आप विचार कीजिए कि इन पेजेस पर, इन पन्नों पर आपने क्या लिखा। इस पन्नों पर कई चैप्टर्स रहे हैं। कुछ आपके रिलेशनशिप संबंधों के चैप्टर, कुछ आपके प्रोफेशनल लाइफ के चैप्टर्स, कुछ आपके निजी सेहत, हेल्थ के चैप्टर्स, और कुछ आपके आध्यात्मिक जीवन, स्पिरिचुअल लाइफ के चैप्टर्स। अलग अलग प्रकार के चैप्टर्स हमने पिछले साल के 2017 की 365 वाली पन्नों की नोटबुक में लिखे हैं। कुछ चैप्टर्स बड़ी अच्छी हैंडराइटिंग में लिखे गए और कुछ चैप्टर्स जंजाल बना दिया हमने उसका। कुछ दिन हमारे संबंधों में कुछ कहने से, कुछ करने से जंजाल बन गया। हमारे प्रोफेशनल लाइफ में हमने कुछ चैप्टर जंजाल बनाकर रख दिए। खुशखबर तो ये है कि 2018 की जो एक नोटबुक हमको मिली है, इसका हर पन्ना, हर पृष्ठ, हर पेज खाली है। और अब ये हमारी चॉइस है कि हम इन पन्नों पर अपने जो संबंधों के चैप्टर, सेहत के चैप्टर, प्रोफेशनल लाइफ के चैप्टर, अपने आध्यात्मिक जीवन के चैप्टर, अपने मानसिक संतुलन के चैप्टर कैसी हैंडराइटिंग में लिखे। अच्छी हैंडराइटिंग में एक जंजाल बनाकर रख दे। और इसीलिए जैसे भी हम चॉइस करेंगे उसी प्रकार का हमारा जीवन का अनुभव होगा। A man got lost in a desert and had exhausted all the water he had carried a couple of days ago. He knew for sure that if he didn't get some water, he would certainly die. Although completely exhausted, the man didn't give up hope. He kept walking, looking for some sign of good fortune. Suddenly, he saw a small hut at some distance. Could it be a mirage, he thought, or maybe just a hallucination? But having no other option left, he edged closer only to realize that the hut was real. Gathering the last bits of energy left, he dragged his tired body inside the hut, hoping he could find some water. The hut was empty and seemed like it had been abandoned for quite some time. His heart skipped a beat when he saw what was in the hut. A hand pump. Water finally. He was overjoyed. He began working the hand pump, but no water came out. He tried harder and yet harder. No water. Finally, after putting in every bit of energy, he gave up out of exhaustion and frustration and sat down thinking, maybe I'm destined to die out of thirst today. And then a second ray of hope. He noticed a bottle in one corner of the hut. It was filled with water and corked up to prevent evaporation. He uncorked the bottle, and as he was just about to devour the life-giving water, he noticed a piece of paper attached to it. The handwritten message read, "Use this water to start the pump. Don't forget to fill the bottle when you're done." He was now in a dilemma: to follow the instruction and pour the water into the pump, or ignore it and just drink the water. What if he put the water into the pump and it didn't work? But then maybe the instruction was correct. Should he risk it? If it turned out to be false, he would be throwing away the last water he would ever see. Have you ever been in a situation like this, where there are only two options and uncertainty about which one will work? What will you do? Which one will you choose? Well, you have to choose one and be willing to bear the consequences that it brings. Many people don't decide because they're fearful of the consequences, and they continue to remain confused in their life. The man decided to take a leap of faith. Hands trembling, he poured the water into the pump, closed his eyes, said a prayer, and started working the pump. He heard a gurgling sound, and water came down, gushing out, way more than he could possibly use. He drank the cool, refreshing water to his heart's content and quenched his thirst. He was going to live. Feeling much better, he looked around the hut and found a pencil and a map of the region. The map showed that he was still far away from civilization, but at least now he knew where he was and in which direction to go next. He filled up his flask for the journey ahead, and as per the instruction on the note, also filled up the bottle and put the cork back in. And before leaving the hut, he added his own lines below the instruction. Believe me, it works. Most of us may not be confronted with a situation like this, where the choice made decides whether we live or die. Yet, we have our own journeys to take and our own choices to make. If the choice we make goes our way, fantastic. We can inspire people by telling them, believe me, it works. And if it doesn't go our way, we can share our mistakes, our experiences, our realizations, and empower people to make their right choices. If your job pays you well, is it okay to overlook the satisfaction you get from it? Is it okay to forget your passion and continue slogging in a job that you don't like? Here's my answer. Assuming that you spend on an average about 8 hours a day at work and work a 5 days week, that would mean spending 40 hours of your week at work. Now, assuming that you get 2 weeks of holiday every year, that would mean spending 2,000 hours of your year at work. Now, does that sound a lot? Well, let's keep going. Assuming that you spend 45 years of your life working, that would mean spending a daunting 90,000 precious hours of your life at work, which is approximately 10 years of your life. And if you're not happy with your work, guess what? You end up spending 8 hours of your day, 40 hours of your week, 2,000 hours of your year, 90,000 hours of your life in misery. Not sure if that's a great deal. I know what you're thinking. Following your passion doesn't pay the bills. Your calling doesn't clear the loans and mortgages. After all, those who slog it out are the ones who have better cars, better houses, better holidays, a better life. A better life? Oh well, debatable, isn't it? I completely understand and agree that you can't quit your current job because you have real needs in the real world. But at the same time, I'm also asking you whether it's fair to spend 10 years of your life in pain. I know that those of you who are watching this video are shouting, "Enough of math, sir. Please tell us, what's the way out?" Here's my proposal. Don't take the risk of quitting your current job to follow your passion. What if the passion stuff doesn't work? Who will pay the bills? Your passion? But at the same time, don't neglect your passion and be a nervous wreck at work. Try and find the right balance. Step 1. If not everything, identify some part of your current work that you may possibly develop some liking for. That will make your 40 hours a week a little less painful than now. No one has a perfect job, exactly like no one has a perfect partner in marriage. But when you identify those aspects of your spouse that you love and connect to that, the elements that you don't necessarily like in your spouse become a little easy to handle. Deal with your job the way you deal with your spouse. Focus on and highlight the positives and work through the negatives. Step 2. Start pursuing your passion side by side. Maybe it's very small in the beginning. Maybe it can be done only over the weekend. But when you do what you love, not only will you find deep satisfaction, but also the ability to handle what you have to do at work through the week. And you know what? Maybe one day your passion will become your profession, giving you fulfillment and the money needed to live in the real world. There were 5 men who got lost in a vast forest and were trying to find their way out. The first man said, "I'm going to follow my intuition and go to the left." The second man said, "I'm going to go right. I have a strong feeling that that's the way out." The third man said, "Well, I'm going to walk back on the same path that we took to reach here. I think that would be the safest." The fourth man said, "I think we are absolutely on the right track already, and so I'm going to keep walking straight." After the 4 men took to the left, the right, back, and straight, respectively, the 5th man said, "Well, I don't know what to do. I think I'm just going to climb up this tall tree and get a better view around before I make up my mind." From the top of the tree, the 5th man could now see what was the shortest way to the village. Isn't it a fact that when you rise above a situation and see the larger picture, your decision seems to be the most sound? Well, yes indeed. But there's a slight twist to the story. The fifth man thought that the others should not have chosen the paths they did, and that he was right and they were wrong. And from one point of view, he was right. But from another perspective, I'm not too sure. Each man had chosen his own path and gained a different experience. It's not just about right or wrong, but about gaining your own experience and finding your own path. The man who went left found a long path, but at the end, well, it led him to the town. The man who went right had to fight a pack of wolves, but then he learned how to survive in the forest. The man who went backwards met another team of hikers, and guess what? He made new friends. The man who went straight found a farm and was hosted by the family for a couple of days before leaving for the village. And of course, the man on the tree found the shortest path. The journey enriched each one of them in their own unique way. Every decision offers us new experiences, which in turn adds to our maturity and wisdom, ultimately leading to our own growth. Isn't it said that life is like an exam? People fail because they try to copy others, not realizing that each one has a different question paper, a different test. Ladies and gentlemen, walk your own path while you also learn from the experience of others. It can be fun to once in a while revisit your childhood days and relive them. One day I happened to see a remote-controlled helicopter someone had and decided to give it a try. Having lost practice of using a joystick, it was a little hard in the beginning, but in a few attempts, I thought I was becoming a pro in flying it. It was then that I remembered how a friend of mine from London had taken me for a ride on his private plane. As we were taking off, I recollect sharing an inspiring quote with my friends on that flight. I had said, "When everything seems to be going against you, remember that the airplane takes off against the wind, not with it." Well, the tiny Cessna we were flying in definitely gave us a real-time experience of that quote, as it was super wobbly during takeoff. But we had a very smooth landing. Don't they say? All is well that ends well. Recently, I decided to try a real adventure, a one in which you take off in a plane but don't land in it. Skydiving. The night before, I'm lying in bed, visualizing myself jumping off the plane, thinking, what if the parachute doesn't open? What if it opens but malfunctions when we are in the air? What if I have a free fall straight on the ground? Ladies and gentlemen, do you know what's stopping us from taking the plunge? Do you know what's stopping us from growth? Two words. What if? What if I fail? What if I lose? What if people mock me? What if he or she says no? What if life will pass away and our minds will stop us from realizing our truest and fullest potential? That night, I decided to confront my what if and shut my mind up. I asked myself, do you want the experience of jumping off a plane? Yes, came the answer from within. then no what ifs. Whatever happens, be ready for it, I said to my mind. To make sure it was not an uncalculated risk, I decided to evaluate the risk factor. When I checked the statistics of skydiving casualties on Google, it was 13 fatalities in 3.3 million skydives last year, way less than the car accidents that took place last year. But what if I happened to be one amongst the 13? My mind protested again. Then lie down here in bed, snoring and being a couch potato, missing the exhilarating experience in your life, I told my mind. As I drifted away into sleep, crossing the crippling boundary of what ifs, I remember telling myself, look darling, your skydiving support tomorrow is an expert. He has had several years of experience with thousands of skydives and not a single casualty to his record. Relax, take it easy. The next day, as the doors of the plane opened at 18,000 feet above ground level, I was ready, telling myself, I want to do it, I can do it, I will do it. I remember standing at the edge of the plane door, now fearlessly looking down, and then we jumped. That free fall was the most liberating experience of my life. Liberation from the two paralyzing words, what if? As we floated in the air, feeling light like never before, the parachute opened, and I thought to myself, today, the parachute is opened, and so has my mind. Open your minds. Face those things that are holding you back. Cross the limiting boundaries of your what ifs. Believe me, an amazing life waits ahead on the other side of what ifs. There was an old lady who went to a bank and said to the cashier, I would like to withdraw $500. The female cashier told her, I'm sorry, madam. For withdrawals of any amount less than $5,000, you may have to use the ATM actually. When the old lady asked why, the cashier, who was irritated, unknowingly said, Madam, look, rules are rules, yeah? There's a long queue behind you. Please, let me do my work. The old lady replied, then please help me withdraw all the money I have. The cashier was astonished when she checked the account balance. She turned to the old lady, leaned down and said, my apologies, madam. You have $3.5 billion in your account, and our bank does not have so much cash currently. Could you kindly make an appointment and come again tomorrow, please? The old lady asked, okay, but how much cash can I withdraw now? The cashier promptly and now respectfully replied, any amount up to $300,000. The old lady told the cashier that she wanted to withdraw $300,000 from her account. The cashier did so quickly and handed over the amount to her. Guess what the old lady did? She kept $500 in her bag and returned the balance of $299,500 back to the cashier, asking her to deposit it back into the account, only to leave the cashier astonished and dumbfounded. Isn't it a fact that way too often we end up judging a book by its cover? Many times people around us possess the wealth of deep insights, experience, wisdom, but because of being caught up with the social standards and because of their modest externals, we could easily misjudge and miss out on the opportunity to receive so much. The next time you're around someone, remember, they may possess a wealth that you have no idea about. Stop yourself from judging them, and you may be tremendously benefited by what they have. There were two independent houses separated by a compound wall. In one lived a young techie, and in another, an elderly retired man. Both of them planted identical saplings on their respective side of the compound wall. The young guy supplied his plant with a lot of water and high quality manure. The retired man, however, gave his plant just a small quantity of water and a little manure. The techie's sapling grew into a lush, green, leafy, robust plant. The retired person's plant was a near normal, but much luxuriant than his neighbor's. One night, there was a heavy rain with gusty winds, and the next morning, both came out to see the fate of their plants. To the techie's surprise, his plant had been uprooted, whereas his neighbor's was unharmed. The techie turned to the neighbor and asked, "Why was my plant uprooted by the rains despite such good care, whereas yours stayed firm and strong despite just a little care?" The neighbor answered, "Look, young man, you supplied everything the plant would need in abundance. Since the plant did not have to do anything on its own to search for what it needed, the roots of your plants haven't gone deep down. I was supplying my plant just enough to keep it alive. For the rest, the roots had no choice but to go deep down into the ground to fulfill its needs. Since the roots of your plant were superficial, the rain and wind could easily fell it down. Since the roots of my plant were deeply grounded, it could easily withstand this onslaught of nature." Isn't the story similar to the way we deal with our children, with our youngsters? Sometimes we can be so possessive and overprotective of them. We can end up caring for them to the extent of pampering them, not giving them their space, the facility, the opportunity, and the impetus to grow by taking responsibility. On the other hand, if we just leave them to themselves without proper support and help, they may end up making wrong decisions due to lack of maturity. Caring for our children is exactly like caring for a plant. Underdoing it will make the plant die, but overdoing it will make the plant weak. It is the right balance that we make our children grow luxuriantly and bear flowers and fruits in the form of experience, wisdom, and maturity.
Because you made it this far in a video, I want to celebrate you. Most people start and don't finish. Most people never actually follow through. Most people say they want something, but they don't ever do the work to actually get it. But you are different. You are special. Believe Nation, you made it here all the way to the end, and I love you. So as a special celebration, if you put a hashtag believe down in the comments below on this video, I will showcase you and celebrate you somewhere on the screen in a future video because you are awesome.
For 10 more amazing rules from Sadhguru, check the video right there next to me. I think you'll love it. Continue to believe, and I'll see you there.
People think I have knowledge. No, my head is empty. That's why to make it look little substantial, I have a turban. It's totally empty always, but I have clarity. Clarity means what? You see things the way they are. Knowledge means what?